thank yous to get through, so this is going to be like an Academy Awards speech, but welcome to Selfridge. This is amazing. This historic installation is 108 years old this year, and today we're looking forward to our next 100 years. We often say that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and if you didn't know, Selfridge is also referred to as the home of the generals. Aviation legends like Curtis LeMay, Carl Spaatz, Jimmy Doolittle, and others walked these grounds. Other icons from the halls of aviation, like Charles Lindbergh and the 332nd Fighter Group. Does anybody know the significance of the 332nd Fighter Group? The Red Tails, the Tuskegee. They've all called Selfridge home. As we prepare for the future, I want to thank leaders, all of our leaders that made today possible. First, our base community council. They are our local business leaders who have provided tremendous support to our airmen and to our mission. Thank you. To our state leadership, Governor Whitmer, not here today, but Major General Rogers, our Adjutant General, Brigadier General Dan Kramer, our Assistant Adjutant General and Commander of the Michigan Air National Guard, for being our champions during this momentous dual conversion. And here at the wing level, a big thank you to Chief Eric Wolford, wherever he's at, there he is, for your vision and paving the way for making today possible. I'd also like to recognize our community partners. Macomb County Executive, Mr. Mark Hackle, Deputy Executive, Mr. J.P. Rab, Macomb County Planning and Economic Development Team, led by Vicki Rowinski, Dr. Kelly Lavati, Macomb County Chamber. I know I saw you here.
Right here.
Back there? Oh, there you are. Thank you all, as well to our elected officials from across Michigan. And I also want to give a special shout out and thank you to our longtime advocate, the Honorable Candace Miller. You are all here today because we are on the verge of a generational investment. And to understand what that means for Selfridge, I'd like to share a short story with you. In 1966, a man named William joined the Michigan Air National Guard, while the units now stationed here were located at Detroit Metropolitan Airport. And he eventually went off to pilot training. A few years later, in 1970, those units were relocated from Detroit to Selfridge Air Force Base. In 1971, William returned from pilot training. The exact same year, the Air National Guard assumed control of the installation and renamed it Selfridge Air National Guard Base. In 1983, William met Pamela, a civilian working on the base, who had a 3-year-old son. They married in 1985, and William became a tremendous influence on that young boy. He opened his eyes to the Air National Guard and all the good things that came with it: the camaraderie, the lifelong friendships, the sense of pride, and above all, selfless service. William eventually retired as a colonel in 1993 as the deputy commander of the 191st Fighter Interceptor Group, what we now call the 127th Airfield Group. In 1998, William and Pam's son, now a young man, enlisted in the Michigan Air National Guard, eventually finding his way to Selfridge in 2002. Following in his stepfather's path, he went off to pilot training and returned in 2009 to Selfridge to fly the KC-135. And then he had a son, a 1-year-old son, on his return. Fast forward to December of 2025, that once 1-year-old son is now 17, joined the Michigan Air National Guard, and he will go off to training later this year to be a boom operator. And eventually be on the KC-46 as well. So he's already chosen to follow his father's footsteps, and the goal of becoming a future leader here in the Michigan Air National Guard and a tanker pilot. That youngest boy is my son. And I stand before you today as the wing commander and the proud son of William and Pamela. That is the generational impact of Selfridge. And I am not alone, because we have others here with many similar stories. This place is truly generational. Our goal today is to provide you with the tools and education to navigate federal and state contracting processes so that you can be part of this generational investment. We're building the foundation for the airmen of tomorrow. We ask you to partner with us in shaping what the next 100 years at Selfridge will look like. Thank you again for taking your time to be here today. It is now my privilege to hand the microphone over to the Adjutant General of Michigan, Major General Paul Rogers. Sorry, Jack.
I am not the Adjutant General Major Rogers, different uniform. That being said, the General gave me the opportunity because I think I'm going to do him incredible justice in introducing him, and I believe he is after me. Is that correct? I want to make sure of that. So, again, this is a unique opportunity for many of us, and we're excited to have all of you here. But I got to take a step back for a moment, if you will, and entertain this. I know I only have 2.5 minutes, and that's going to be very difficult to do 2.5 minutes. But you're here for one reason, and that's to try to find opportunities for your companies and your businesses. And the reason that is happening here today and where we're moving forward is because of a lot of work that's been done over the past 10, 15, almost 20 years. All those conversations we've had about base realignment closures and concerns and issues you've seen across the country, this base has always been facing that. But there have been many champions along the way to try to support what's happening because the generals here at this base understand the importance of this to our nation's defense first and foremost. But with that being said, we understand there's a huge impact on the economy here in Southeast Michigan, in particular in Macomb County. But we have seen this effort and this push grow beyond just Macomb County and Southeast Michigan. There's been an incredible interest on behalf of the entire state of Michigan to support the mission here at Selfridge. And I say that because the people on this base and the importance of it, we're here to support the people on this base, but the prior generals and General Rogers, who was really the one that was pushing toward this replacement of the fighter jets here. But along the way, I've watched and I've seen so many things happen, and so many public officials step up to the challenge to try to get people to understand, not only in Lansing, but even in D.C., the importance of what's happening. When there was conversations about the A-10s decades ago, leaving this base, yet Candace Miller, who was working in Congress at the time, saying that isn't happening, and fighting to keep those fighters here as a mission out at Selfridge Air Base. But as we started about 15 years ago, our Planning and Economic Development Department, led then by Steve Casson, J.P. Ray, who's standing off in the corner hiding, he tried to be nonchalant, but he's the Swiss Army knife of government officials. He gets shit done, okay? And with that being said, Vicki Rowinski was one of the people that we found who has a tremendous interest in the defense industry. And so along the way, we come to the realization, how do we help lift up Selfridge? People working on this base sometimes can't do certain things because they're obviously their role in the federal government. That we can, whether it's the base council, whether it's the chambers, whether it's other elected officials. We came together to try to get people to understand the importance of Selfridge. And I'm going to tell you, everybody met the challenge along the way. To the point that we're here today talking about a replacement for the fighters that is beyond our expectations, beyond our belief. So what's happening? Well, we're looking at obviously about $3 billion worth of hardware coming here with the tankers and the new fighters. But to compare them, you're talking about $1 billion worth of work, over $1 billion worth of work. There's a responsibility we have with the Department of Roads and the underground work that needs to be done when it comes to Kansas Corner Public Works, and we're going to be doing that. We're committed to making that happen along with some state funding and local funding. But there's a lot of work that's going to be happening on this base. We want to make sure everybody's in tune to the opportunities that you have. Many of you here in this room, some are going to be hearing this being replayed, and we're going to put it out there so they too have an opportunity to compete for some of these job opportunities. And we would just want to make sure that everybody understands in Macomb County, we continue to stay committed to trying to make sure that we're going to advance Selfridge Air Base. Our planning department has a booth in the back. You're going to have a chance after this to engage and talk to. We are your business partners. And in fact, when we're done consulting with you and conversing with you to try to figure out how to get some of these opportunities, what you need to get through some of the red tape with local municipalities, we don't send you a bill, okay? We're here to do the work that we can do for you, to support you, and that is the commitment on behalf of Vicki Rowinski and her team, so make sure you stop at our booth in the back. But folks, I gotta tell you, there's absolutely no bigger champion for this fighter mission coming here to Selfridge Air Base than General Rogers. And I say that because the first time I met him was when I first became county executive, went over to take on Tarnak to learn more about the defense industry that we have here. We have an incredible asset here in Macomb County, many industries that we support, but the defense industry was less talked about. We tried to figure out how do we lift it up by talking to those who truly understood it. He was one of those guys early on that I realized he gets it. He understands that we need to start talking more about it, marketing and championing it, because even though we were getting a lot of defense contracts in Macomb County, We were the defense capital of the Midwest. More contracts were here in Macomb County. More businesses here in Macomb County were awarded those contracts to do work for the defense industry. But we looked at it as an opportunity to figure out how do we spread that? How do we get that beyond Southeast Michigan? How do we get the state to understand the importance of this? So that in Macomb County, in the state of Michigan, we can at some point in time become the defense capital of America. And I'm going to tell you, we're headed in that direction. Selfridge Air Base is going to help us sustain that opportunity. And I'm so glad and so grateful that we've had so many partnerships along the way to make this happen. But there could be no greater leader in making that happen and the commitment on behalf of Selfridge Air Base and our men and women working in the military than General Paul Rogers. Ladies and gentlemen, the General.
Okay, good deal. So had to check with Vicki. She was supposed to be introducing all of us, and of course she got overcome by events. So I asked her permission to just keep rolling outside of her plan. So we're going to do that. But good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here. How many are in here from Macomb County? Okay, so the rest of you, we can all hate them because we had a really bad ride into Selfridge this morning, and they didn't experience any of it, I don't think, but it was horrendous. So, but we're here, and it's awesome to be here. How many are from Michigan? Yeah, that's outstanding. That's outstanding. So, what you're going to see today, and I know you're sitting there, and the quote from Jerry Maguire is going through your head, right? Just get out of the way, just show me the money. Where's it going? And we're going to get there. We're going to get there, but I just wanted to open up and have a quick conversation on the front end, and the leadership from Macomb who are so important to us. From the base community council up through the elected officials. It's just an amazing relationship we have here. So we wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to address this audience, make sure that you saw them, especially if you're not from Macomb, so you can seek them out, you know who they are, a face with a name, with a responsibility, because this is a team sport. And everything you're hearing about today is all about that team sport. It's a team sport to fight and get these two amazing missions. And again, you're going to hear words today like unprecedented, because it is unprecedented to have two of the premier flying missions coming to a single base in the Air Force today, in this day and age, is unheard of. So the fact that we are sitting here and we're going to have the KC-46 by 2030, and in 2028 we're going to have the first F-15EXs flying on this base, it's absolutely unheard of. And when we look at what the Air Force has done over time to their basing process, when they bring in new missions and these major construction projects, there's only one that stands out, and that's Tyndall Air Force Base, that got literally wiped out by a hurricane. And they invested $7 billion into it over the last 10 years or so to rebuild that base. This is second to that, $1 billion, and essentially the entire airfield and flight line is going to be raised and reconstructed. And we're going to have a brand new runway and taxiways extended. So there's so much change here, it's literally unprecedented. So when you hear that word, it tends to get overused too often in our world today, but this truly meets the definition, and you're going to start to see it. A couple items, and I'm running around a little bit on topic here, but this is not kind of the what I'll call the bid conference, right? This is a start of a conversation, and many of these projects are going to be executed through three different parties, and it goes back to that teamwork. You're going to hear about projects here that are going to be bid out from Macomb County. They're going to bid the project, they're going to do the oversight, the construction management of it, they're going to work with the contractors to build a portion of the portfolio you're going to hear here. So you need to know, in dealing with Macomb County, where do they put those announcements out? How do they work with industry for those projects? And that's why those tables in the back of the room are so critical for you to go sit down and talk to them. So you're not looking in one direction, waiting for an announcement that comes out over here and you miss it. So that's very important. On other ones, it's going to be the state of Michigan through our DTMB. they're going to put the bids out. They're going to be the request for proposals, and it's going to go through that state process. And again, if you're looking at only the county, you're going to miss those announcements. So it's really, really important that you understand that. And then on the other third leg of the stool here, it's going to be executed through the Air Force and the federal systems. And again, to know where you're looking so you don't miss something, especially if you're new to this enterprise, is so important. And that's why we wanted to start having a conversation. I give all credit to Vicki. About 4 months ago, she started kind of poking us in the chest and going, hey, we need to start talking to people in the construction community and the services community, if you will, and start sharing this information so they're not surprised or they're not a day late. So that's what this is about. It's a series, but the bottom line is the formal request for proposals is going to come through those three entities, and understanding that and the rough timing of it is going to be critical. That's what I hope you walk away with today, is that understanding of the process, who's going to be managing what pieces of that process, and where you should be focused on to see the opportunities come about. So I'm gonna transition just here real quick. I just want to go back and compliment the leadership and the team that we have the pleasure of working with. Selfridge has, again, an unprecedented Base Community Council. And that group of leaders, local leaders, there's 200 some companies, I think, maybe 400 members of the Base Community Council. I don't remember the exact numbers, but if you want to be a member, I think you just go back and talk to those folks, raise your hand, stand up. So we have this amazing Base Community Council. They meet regularly, and they actually, they think they own Selfridge. Selfridge is their air base, and we're just caretakers, right? And they beat us up on a regular basis because they don't think we're doing enough for Selfridge, their air base, right? But that's an amazing relationship. Essentially co-ownership maybe, because we're in their community, we're a critical part of their community. We support so many folks here, but we cannot be successful without that amazing community. So strong communities make strong military facilities, and right here we have this incredible relationship. So please go talk to them. And I don't know the process of joining or being a participant of it, but you can go talk to them about that process if you want to get involved. So this is an amazing relationship. And then you go to the Macomb leadership that you're seeing come up here today. Strong advocacy, but also strong partners. Just like I said, they're taking on the responsibility for tens of millions, if not $100 million worth of construction effort to support us. And then we reimburse the county as that work is being accomplished. So to have that kind of trust relationship where we know that they care as much, if not more than we do, is really, really important. So that great relationship at Macomb, at the county level, and then at the state level, it's the same. Again, it's complete trust. They're executing hundreds of millions of dollars of the $1 billion that's going to be done here. And that trust relationship is just so incredibly beneficial to have. So you're going to hear from those different groups today. This is being recorded, and it's going to be online for those who could not be in here. We want to make sure we are sharing broadly, so I am managing my behavior a little bit and my word choices, which is uncharacteristic for those who know me. But it's important we get word out, so help us get that word out, ask the questions, hold us accountable. We will not be successful here unless you're successful. And what you're building is generational capability for the United States. You are building an airfield that is going to support the national defense of this country for the next 50 to 100 years. This is not just a project. This is not just a contract to win. This is an investment into our national security and all those things we cherish at the national level. And the future of our children and our grandchildren, and you can go on down through the generations. This base has been here for over 100 years. It's one of the oldest in the nation. And what you're going to be part of, if you choose to be part of it, and if you're successful in winning a contract, is building the foundation for the next 100 years. And I cannot emphasize how critically important that is more than I am right now. because these are our children and our grandchildren and their children that will be serving on this air base and defending our country. So thank you for being interested, thank you for being here, best of luck, and ask the tough questions. If I turn over to you, Vicki, or I'm just going to roll with it? Roll with it. So it is my distinct pleasure. You've heard of Candace Miller's name mentioned here a couple times, but I'd love to invite Commissioner Miller up here. Strong advocate. She's actually a honorary base commander, so she does own the air base, and she survives all other air base commanders over the last 3 years. She's going to be here forever, so she's really in charge. But Commissioner Miller, please.
I was going to be here forever. That's really dating me, but listen, everything I was going to say has pretty much been said, so I'll be very brief here this morning, but what a fantastic turnout. And I loved Colonel Lamar talking about the history of Selfridge. When you think about one thing, I don't know if you mentioned that Selfridge was named after Thomas Selfridge, who was the first military aviator killed in flight so many years ago, right? This was Joy Field at one time, where Henry Joy just said, you can have as much acreage as I can walk around in a day. That's I don't know if that's a rumor or not, but that's part of the history, right? But there has been fantastic history here over the years, and there's going to be a lot of history being made here now. And as our Adjutant General has talked about things that are very generational and transformational, that is really what's happening on this base. And I'll just tell you what, we're all here for a lot of reasons, but a lot of it, of course, is economic opportunity, the kinds of economic opportunity that you might all have. But the other reason that we're here, and I think about the Base Community Council and people that I have known over the years here, this community and all the partnerships that we have had here, whether it's been with a local municipality, with the county, with the region, with the state, the kind of partnerships that we have had here are not just because we recognize the economic driver that this facility is, which it certainly is, but it's also because we recognize what a critical component this facility is in the national inventory for our posture of our security. The national defense. I've always said the first and foremost responsibility of the federal government, I was in Congress, always said this, is to provide for the common defense. It's in the preamble of our Constitution. And all of us think about these brave men and women, our war fighters who are here at Selfridge, our war fighters that are helping. They proudly wear the uniform each and every day, and they secure our liberty, our freedom, our democracy. And I tell you, this is not a community that complains when, you got an airplane going over your head and you're thinking, oh, these guys, the noise is ruining my backyard barbecue. That is not what we say here. We say that is the sound of freedom. That is the sound of freedom, and thank God they're one of ours. That's what we say in this community. My department, here I'm still with this job. I hate to say how many jobs I've had over the years, the different hats that I've worn, but we're going to be one of the presenters today to talk about the infrastructure portion of this. So you're going to hear a lot about that today with the Macomb County Roads talking about how they have to expand the runway, reconfigure M59, all the drainage that is going to happen there. And as the Public Works Commissioner, I'm still involved with all of this. But I just have to give, Jeff Bedner's going to be presenting for us now. You guys got to give him a bit of a break. His daughter, Emily, is in the hospital right now in labor, and with his first grandchild coming, so let's hope we can get through the presentation before he runs out the door here today. But anyway, it'll be an interesting thing. But thank you all so very, very much for coming, and thank you for the support that you give this base each and every day, and for our national defense. That is the most important reason that we're all here today. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, so we can give another round to our leadership, General Rogers. They're absolutely correct. It does take a team, and this is Team Selfridge. All right, so back to our regular program schedule. We're gonna now introduce, the big question I get day to day is, what's happening at Selfridge? So we're gonna bring up here Lieutenant Colonel Klinke. He's the base civil engineer. He's going to answer that question for us of what's going on with this $1 billion project.
All right, good morning. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Steve Klinke, and I am the base civil engineer here at Selfridge. And before we begin, I think it's important for all of us to understand my position. You see, in this setting and in this room, I am essentially the lowest ranking person here. My boss is Colonel Trapasso, the Mission Support Group Commander, and he reports to the Wing Commander. The Wing Commander reports to Brigadier General Kramer. General Kramer reports to the Adjutant General of the Michigan National Guard, Major General Rogers, who of course works directly for the Governor. So you can see, I am way down the list, and I'm really not that important, but as the base civil engineer here at Selfridge, I am responsible for all the real property on this installation. And that includes all of the facilities and infrastructure. And I am familiar with the topic at hand. So, what are we talking about for the next 30 minutes? So I'm sorry you had me for 30 minutes, but it's something we call the $1 billion investment. And many of you have heard about the $1 billion investment. Now, this is all about Mission Next. Mission Next is all about the new aircraft and the missions coming to Selfridge. And the focus is and should be on the capabilities that those aircraft provide. See, both the KC-46 and the F-15EX are state-of-the-art aircraft and represent the next generation of air power. See, these aircraft are essential to the defense of our nation, and the pilots and maintainers of those aircraft are nothing short of America's best. But I'm not a pilot. And I'm not a maintainer. My job as the base civil engineer is to ensure that every facility and infrastructure requirement associated with those aircraft are met. And so with that, let's talk about what is included in the $1 billion investment. So instead of just listing all the projects that are part of this portfolio, what I will attempt to do this morning is tell the story. Tell the story of how we got here, how we made the decisions that we made. See, the $1 billion investment is all about solving problems. And there are challenges with basing new aircraft at an installation that has been operational since 1917. And the $1 billion investment in portfolio is all about solving our current problems to position Selfridge to be an air power leader for the next 100 years. That's what we are trying to do. And as I begin, I will warn you, there are a dizzying number of projects. 31 at last count. But there's more. There's 31 major projects. And so what I will attempt to do is explain in general terms what we are planning to do. So, and how it all fits together. So let's get started. Our story this morning begins in the 1970s. As you already heard this morning, Selfridge was transferred to the Michigan Air National Guard in 1971. And soon after, the Air Force began developing these things called clear zone requirements. Now, the clear zone is how the Air Force defines the area at the end of the runway that is most likely to encounter an aircraft incident or accident. And as the name implies, the clear zone should be clear. There's a long list of incompatible land use that's associated with the clear zone, and in the mid-1970s, a problem was identified. The problem is that Selfridge already had residential homes in the clear zone, and obviously residential homes would be incompatible land use for the clear zone. So state, federal, and Air Force leaders worked to find a solution to this encroachment in the South Clear Zone. And the solution that they came up with is what we call the Compromise of 1979. And the agreement between the Michigan congressional delegation, specifically Congressman Bonnier, and the Secretary of the Air Force, is that all homes north of the Clinton River would be removed by attrition, but all homes south of the Clinton River would remain. Now, it was understood that these homes that you see in this triangular section were still in the clear zone and violated clear zone requirements. But the Air Force allowed Selfridge to operate in this way for the next 40 years. But then things changed in the mid-2010s. In the mid-2010s, the Air Force began to more strictly enforce clear zone requirements. Now, that didn't affect our current mission of KC-135s and the 810s, but it did impact strategic basing decisions. Now, I am by no means a strategic basing expert, and strategic basing is very complicated. It takes into consideration environmental impacts, airspace costs, and a host of other things. But it is undeniable that encroachment in the Selfridge South Clear Zone was a factor in Selfridge's non-selection for the F-35 and foreign military sales missions, which included F-35s and F-16s. So it wasn't the only factor, but it was a factor. So we had to figure out a way to solve this encroachment. Now, the homes aren't moving, so what we have to do is move the clear zone. Now, the clear zone was and still is a 3,000 foot by 3,000 foot box at the end of the runway. And the start and end of the runway is defined by the threshold. The threshold is just paint and lights on our pavement that indicate as the aircraft takes off when the wheels have to be up and when the aircraft is landing when the wheels can touch down. So the solution is, let's move the threshold. If we move the threshold by changing where we define the start and the end of the runway, we can solve our encroachment. And that's what you see on the screen. Go back one. Our red box is our current clear zone, and as we shift that threshold to the north, our new clear zone is the yellow box. And what you see is that there's no homes in that box. Well, that was easy. All we had to do is just change where we define the runway. But of course, it's not that easy at all. So next slide, please. And so the problem, which is encroachment, is in the south. But the real solution and all the work is in the north. So we are an air base. This is where we launch and recover aircraft. And what we can't do is we can't shorten our runway. We are an air base, not just an air base, but we have tankers, the gas stations of the sky. And if we move that south threshold without taking any action in the north, we would be shortening our runway. So we need to add some pavement in the north. But as Commissioner Miller said, there's things in the way. We can't just add pavement to the north side of our runway. Rosso Highway is in the way, Irwin Drain, the base perimeter road. There's things that are in the north of our runway. So the solution is to move everything north as far as possible. And what we did as we started planning for this project is we determined how far north we can go with that north threshold so we don't have any encroachment in the north. We can't solve the problem in the south and then have the same problem in the north. And so we defined that threshold as far north as we could go. We know that we need 1,000 foot overrun beyond the threshold to meet unified facility criteria. We know that we need taxiways to connect to the runway. And I should note that there are a couple different configurations of the taxiway, but what's shown on the screen is our preferred option. And once we had the basic geometry of the runway, then we could design Rosso Highway around it and the Irwin Drain and the base perimeter road. And so that is our plan for the runway encroachment solution. And Mr. Josiah Myers, Mr. Jeff Bednar, Mr. Scott Wagnott will talk more about this project. And there's two other things that I want to talk about before we move on to the facilities. One is the runway encroachment solution is not necessarily and specifically tied to the new aircraft. See, the clear zone requirements are valid for all aircraft, but this important initiative will ensure that Selfridge does not have encroachment in the south and that Selfridge will be able to compete and win future missions that haven't even been identified yet. And that is Mission Next. So, let's move on and talk about the KC-46s, and now our story moves to 2024. In January of 2024, the Secretary of the Air Force announced that Selfridge would be receiving KC-46 aircraft. It was and still is a huge win for Selfridge and the entire state of Michigan. And as soon as that announcement was made, my team started looking at where can we put these large tanker aircraft? And you know what we found? There is not a single facility on this installation that is big enough for a KC-46. It's just a larger aircraft than the KC-135. It's larger in every way. Now, the size and location of that hangar was still to be determined. We didn't know, but we had known for some time that a new hangar was coming to Selfridge. And as the requirements for squad ops and the simulators and aerial ground equipment became more clear, we started developing projects to meet those requirements and to meet those challenges. And all of those are parts of the $1 billion investment. So next slide. And so I just said that we need a new hangar for our KC-46. But not just any hangar. We need a hangar that fits two KC-46s, and our current plan calls for all the maintenance shops to be built around the hangar base. And so we call this project the KC-46 Dual Bay Hangar. We're currently at 35% design, and Mr. Jim Walters is going to talk after me about this exciting project. And so this will be the focal point for all maintenance activities for the KC-46, and this will be where, this is the signature project for the KC-46. But there's more things to the KC-46 than just maintenance. Somebody needs to fly these aircraft, and simulators are an important part of that training. The simulators ensure that our team has the training to safely fly and operate the KC-46. Now, for our current mission, the KC-135, we only have one simulator on the space. It's just a boom trainer. And the KC-46 comes with 3 trainers. It comes with a boom trainer, which is similar to the one we already have, just more sophisticated, but it also comes with a fuselage trainer. That is a full-scale KC-46 fuselage that will be primarily used to practice loading and unloading cargo. And then the third simulator is the highly specialized and sophisticated weapons system trainer. That's a full-motion cockpit that moves based on input from the pilot. But the problem is, not only are we getting more simulators, but they're large. They're very large, and we had to find a place to put these simulators. Well, the hangars that we have for the KC-135s don't fit a KC-46, and so we started looking at those hangars. Hangar 36 is scheduled to be demolished as part of our conversion plan because of a host of reasons, but Hangar 35 is our current fuel cell for the KC-135s. And what we determined is that that building is suitable for simulators as long as we put on a small addition for the weapons system trainer. So in the future, Hangar 35 will be transformed from our current fuel cell into our aircrew training complex. And then we had to look at squadron operations. Squadron operations are where the pilots, boom operators, aircrew flight equipment, that's where they work on a daily basis. And for our current operations, Squadron Ops is spread out into 3 separate facilities, and 2 of those buildings are scheduled to be demolished as part of our conversion effort. So our plan is to consolidate squadron operations into Building 17, add an addition to accommodate the whole team, and then everybody can be operating under one roof. This will increase communication and effectiveness as our team plans for the future missions. We also looked at aerial ground equipment, our current complex to store all the equipment that's used to service the aircraft. That complex that we have is inadequate for the KC-46. The new equipment is just bigger, and we need the room for the KC-46 dual bay hangar. So our plan is to build a completely new aerial ground equipment complex next to Building 17. Our plan is also to renovate Hangar 9 for cargo storage, and then also we need to work on our airfield pavement. There's many areas of our airfield pavement that need to be replaced or repaired to accommodate the heavier weight of the KC-46. So that's pretty much all of our projects with the KC-46, and on my last slide you'll see the map to get oriented and see where these projects are. So now let's move on to the fighters. And if anyone was unaware, in the spring of 2025, Selfridge had a visitor. On April 29, 2025, Air Force One landed here at Selfridge. President Trump walked into Hangar 35 and announced that we would be receiving 21 F-15EX aircraft. It was a monumental day for Selfridge and the entire state of Michigan. There we go, yes. I was there. Major General Rogers was there. The governor was there. Everybody was there. And President Trump's announcement changed everything. Now that we knew that the fighters would be recapitalized, we could truly start planning for Mission Next, with fighters and tankers operating alongside each other on the East Ramp. And just 6 weeks after President Trump's announcement, hundreds of people from all over the country descended on Selfridge in this very room for the Site Activation Task Force, otherwise known as SATAF. And one of the first questions at the SATAF was, where are we going to put these F-15EXs? Where are we going to park them, and where are we going to maintain them? So you see, Selfridge has had F-16s in the past, and we currently have A-10 aircraft, and we do have many fighter hangars. The problem with our hangars is that many of them were built in the 1930s, and they're small by today's standards. But there was still a chance that they would work for the F-15EX. After all, we did have designs on the shelf to renovate our hangars for A-10 operations. So very early on in the SATAF, with hundreds of people gathered here, we decided to do a site visit out on the flight line and look at our facilities. Now the GS-15 Director of Air Combat Command Strategic Basing was here in the building, and although I don't know his real name, his call sign was Penguin. And Penguin was unable to join us on the tour, but his deputy was also here, and his call sign was Gotham. So I don't make up these call signs, that's what it is. And so Gotham was able to join us on the bus tour, and as the bus drove by Hangar 3 from the flight line side, Gotham took one look at Hangar 3 and said, "It's not gonna work, it's too short." And he was right. The tail height of the F-15EX is almost 19 feet tall, and we need a required 10-foot buffer distance on top of that. And so our hangars are old, there'd be a lot of investment needed to renovate them. Combine that with the height requirements, and it just didn't make sense to renovate our existing hangars for the F-15EX. So we needed a new hangar. Next slide. And so not just a hangar, but we needed a hangar to fit 8 F-15EXs. Our current hangar facilities are Building 154, that's our fuel cell that holds 2 aircraft. Our main maintenance hangar is Hangar 3 that has 4 aircraft. And our main weapons hangar is Hangar 5 that holds 2 aircraft. We needed to replace the capability of those hangars because each one is not suitable for the F-15EX. And so we came up with a project, and we have affectionately named it the F-15EX 8-bay hangar. I know we're not very creative with our names around here, but that's what we call it. And like the KC-46, our plan for the 8-bay hangar is to include all the shop spaces around the bays. But unlike the KC-46 dual-bay hangar, our current design calls for 3 separate structures, structurally independent buildings. And we've done this for a number of reasons. One is that's just the space that we have on the east ramp. That's just the space that we have, and it works because we have to be adjacent to the east ramp. The second reason we have chosen to meet this one requirement with 3 separate buildings is because we can potentially phase the project in the way to make sure that we maintain operational capability for as long as possible. So as part of the F-15EX 8-bay hangar, many buildings will be demolished. Hangar 3 and Hangar 5 that were built in the 1930s will be demolished, and 2 of the structures will go on the footprint of the current Hangar 3 and Hangar 5. And once the 8-bay hangar is completely built, we intend to demolish Building 117 and 120. That's our current shop space. Once we have the shops as part of the 8-bay hangar, Building 117 and 120, that were also built in the 1930s, will no longer be needed. But what about Building 154? Building 154 is newer, it's built in 1991, and truth be told, we did just finish renovating it and we wanted to use it. And during the SATAF, we determined that that building would be suitable for the aerial ground equipment for the F-15EXs. It already had large bays, large spaces for equipment storage and maintenance. So in the future, Building 154 will be transformed from our fuel cell for fighters to the aerial ground equipment. Now, on my second to last slide that I have, you'll see that there are 11 projects associated with the F-15EX, but I'm only going to talk about one more here this morning. I'm talking about Squad Ops. And so Squad Ops is the main pilot and mission planning facility. And for our A-10s, the current Squad Ops building is Building 34. Now, Building 34 was created in the 1980s, much like myself, and it's in pretty good shape. And so what we're doing with Building 34 is we plan on renovating it. Now, the important thing to know about Building 34 is that the space is adequate for the F-15EX Squad Ops requirement. We don't have to add any square footage. Now, the inside needs to be fully renovated to meet the specialized mission planning and simulator requirements of the F-15EX, but we don't need to add any footprint. So it's a currently a very functional facility for the 810, and with our renovation project, it'll be fully functional for the F-15EX. And I'm happy to report that just last month, we signed a design contract to fully renovate Building 34. So, Building 154 is our age Building 34 squad ops, our 8-bay hangar, and then combined with hangar 4, which you can almost see out the back windows, that we're currently constructing that will be done in the fall of this year. That comprises the core of fighter operations here at Selfridge and will be the core for decades to come. So next slide. So, we talked about the runway encroachment solution, we talked about the facilities for the KC-46 and the F-15EX, so what's left? Well, actually, a lot, and so during the SATAP, a very important question was raised. As we were developing the plan program that I just finished outlining, the question was, can the utilities and infrastructure here at Selfridge support the new facilities and the new mission? And the answer was, we don't know. We don't know, and that's a terrible answer. Nobody likes that answer, especially not the base civil engineer. You see, the truth is, I do not have a complete picture of the condition and capacity of all our utility structures. We know some, we know a lot, but we don't have a complete picture. So the solution is to do a comprehensive utility study. And that utility study will look at our electric grid, sanitary sewer, stormwater sewer, our water distribution, and what it will do is it will give us the data. It will tell us what the condition is of our utilities in the ground, and more importantly, it will give us recommendations on future infrastructure projects that are needed to support Mission Next. Now, we know that we need to do a few things. We already have some infrastructure projects that are in various stages of design. Just this summer, we are predicting that our perimeter road repair project will be advertised. That's to repair our 9-mile perimeter road. We also have an electrical distribution project that is in design that will provide power to parts of the airfield and the east ramp. And so we know that there's some things that we need to do, but the comprehensive utility study will give us the data needed to develop even more infrastructure projects. So next slide. Now this is how it all fits together. So what I just described was the runway encroachment solution, our facilities associated with the F-15EX, facilities for KC-46, and our foundational infrastructure program. And each one of these initiatives is separate but interconnected. They all connect with each other and they all connect to Mission Next. And each one of these initiatives is hundreds of millions of dollars. That's how you get to $1 billion. See, the $1 billion that we're talking about, that does not include the cost of the aircraft or the equipment. We're only talking about the real property, the facilities and infrastructure. And the infrastructure really is the foundation of Selfridge. Without that, without modernizing and repairing what is underneath the ground, it's going to be very difficult to build all these facilities that you'll see on a daily basis, and we must make sure that we can support it. All right, last slide. So this is it. This is my last slide, and I know it's a lot to look at, but this is our plan for the East Ramp. Now, sometimes when I'm out in the community or at my kids' sports games, people figure out that I work at Selfridge, and inevitably, I get asked some version of the following question. The question is, hey, you're at Selfridge. What's going on at Selfridge? I heard you guys are getting new planes or something. Yes, we are getting new planes, and yes, there's a lot going on at Selfridge, and most of the time, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't even know where to start. And if you came here this morning wondering, hey, what's going on at Selfridge? This is what is going on at Selfridge. Now, this map does not show the runway encroachment solution, and it does not show all of our infrastructure projects, but it does show our plan for the East Ramp and how we intend to modify and build our facilities to support both the F-15EX and the KC-46. And so I will explain this map very quickly in the limited time that I have. On the west side of the East Ramp is fighter country. It is now and will be in the future. And then on the east side of the East Ramp is tanker country. The yellow blocks indicate new footprint or Macomb projects, and the green indicate renovations. So starting on the top left, you see building 154. That will be our aerial ground equipment facility, and then next to it, also in green, is building 34, which is our current squad ops and will also be squad ops for F-15EXs. Both of those projects are scheduled to be renovated. 154 a minor renovation, and building 34 a major renovation. And then you can also see the 3 blocks in yellow that have 8 F-15EXs inside them. That is our F-15EX 8-bay hangar project that's in 3 separate facilities. And then in the middle, hangar 4 in green. That's currently under construction. That'll be open this fall. So that is fighter country. Those are our main projects for the fighters. Now, as we continue around the ramp in a clockwise motion, you'll see Building 17. That is squad ops for the KC-135s and will be squad ops for the KC-46. And you can see we're planning to add an addition on the east side, but there is a building in the way, Hangar 7. Hangar 7 was built in the 1930s, and our plan is to demolish Hangar 7 in addition to Building 32 to make room for the addition on Building 17 and for the aerial ground equipment complex for the tankers. And as we continue clockwise, you can see the green footprint, Hangar 9. That's the project or the building that we're planning to renovate for cargo and deployment processing. And then in the northeast corner of the ramp, this huge yellow block is the KC-46 dual bay hangar. Mr. Jim Walters will be talking about that project next. As we continue clockwise, Hangar 36, you can kind of see it underneath the power check pad. The plan is to demolish Hangar 36 and build this power check pad on top of the footprint so we can test the aircraft engines.
And the next one. So here's our agenda this morning. We're going to start out with a general overview of East Bay School District. Get into our procurement process. We're going to touch on small business. And we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, why I was asked to speak, the KC-46 Dual Bay Hangar project. And then lastly, we'll go over some upcoming projects in the region. There is a Q&A, but it'll be at the very end when we're all done. So the local district has interagency and international missions. We've got military missions in our AOR of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, and Ohio. Global District houses the nationwide Army Air Force Reserve programs, and we have worldwide HRSA for energy, resilience, and conservation programs. We've also got civil works missions in navigation, flood risk, regulatory, emergency response, recreation, and environmental. In FY25, Global District executed contracts approximately $1.1 billion. And for FY26, we're planning to execute around $1.5 billion. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a QR code in the top right there that takes you to our Business With Us page. It shows you IDIQ construction contract opportunities for our district. Now, opportunities are also on sam.gov. You can use the code W912QR to find rural district projects. So to obtain our solicitation, go to sam.gov. And the PIEE solicitation model. As I said before, solicitation numbers have W912QR. There will be an interested vendors list on that website, and you can sign up to receive notifications for upcoming work in the area. So you have to register in sam.gov. Your entity will have to have a page code to get on our projects. Once the solicitation is posted, if there's any amendments posted, those will be on the same solicitation, the same solicitation number. And our advertisement period is anticipated to be 30 to 60 days. You can go to the next one. Okay, so this contract is a design and bid build project. Award will be made on a best value trade-off basis. Remember, when the time comes, Wolf District is in Eastern time. Be sure to submit bids on time. And the source selection board will be held to evaluate proposals and make a selection. So a best value trade-off solicitation typically consists of 4 factors. That will be your past performance, your risk management, there will be a narrative on schedule required to be submitted, and then your small business participation plan. A note there says these are typical, and the official requirements for this solicitation will be clearly delineated in the RFP. It's also a pro forma evaluation. It includes price, your joint venture agreements, the bonding you get, subcontracting plan, and a project labor agreement. And as it says, make your best proposal the first time, Discussions are only held as necessary. Once the solicitation is posted, any instructions for submitting RFIs will be included in the solicitation. Those are entered into the Progenet system. And there's a bidder key that will be in this spec that will tell you how to get to the Progenet and enter your comments. So, given the anticipated dollar value of this project, a project labor agreement will be required, which are pre-hire collective bargaining agreements with one or more labor organizations that establish terms and conditions of employment for a specific construction project. It's also spelled out in 29 USC 158. I'm not going to read all this to you, but these slides are posted. The PLA agreements should conform to all statutes, regs, and executive orders. They bind contractors and subs engaged in construction to comply with the PLA agreement. Anyway, a lot of, some of this website is all we'll go to that. I don't want to bore you to death. This project will also require a small business participation plan. Both large and small business operators must submit a participation plan, and it's based on the total contract value. If you're a large business entity, you must submit a small business subcontracting plan. It's not a rated element as part of the solicitation, but it is still required to be submitted with your proposal. And failure to comply in good faith is a material breach of contract, which doesn't sound good. The next one. Okay, we got through the boilerplate general overview of procurement. Now we'll get into KC 46 Dual Bay project. The project's located right up here in this red circle on the northeast side of the airfield. If we're there, we'll be able to look behind us and see it. The towers over there, over there. So general overview of the scope. So we've got a 162,000 square foot hangar. Serves fuel maintenance and general maintenance for the KC-46 plane. The scope also includes demolition of buildings 14, 15, 24, 410, and 39. Our schedule, we're anticipating construction contract award around 2027, Q1 fiscal year 28, and we're anticipating a 30-month contract period performance. So, it'll be aggressive. So here's a rendering that was submitted with our 35% proposal. This is an aerial from the north side of the facility, the main entrance. I'm currently anticipating a decorative entrance there where occupants walk in past the model of KC-46. We've got a barrel vault style roof. We've got fuel maintenance bay, and then a general maintenance bay. And we've got a shop and admin facilities in the middle. And the second floor will overlook the airfield for operational view. And let's see what else. Shops on the perimeter of the facilities for non-distracted testing, avionics, wheel and tire, engine maintenance. I was nervous this morning, so I brought some notes. Bear with me. Yep, so it is an impressive facility. As I said, it's 162,000 square feet. The roof is nearly 100 feet tall at its highest point. This design was chosen where the base abut with the maintenance shop in the middle as it enhances collaboration and facilitates improved training and maintenance for the users. As we're talking about the next mission, this hangar will be future-proof. It includes the yard space, includes space to grow as the mission grows. Okay, go to the next one. Here's a view from the airfield of the two bays. As you can see, just the impressive size of this hangar. I was trying to give you my grandpa overview of how the project's going. He goes, it's that big, how many planes fit in it? And I go, two. like they're really big plans. And I think the users are happy with the design so far. They've been great to work with, and we're looking forward to continually working with them and receiving their input, so they have a facility they're happy with and use for many years to come. Get the next one. Here's a closer view of the main entrance with that decorative KC-46 there. Facilities are designed in a lot of windows, including natural lighting. Yeah, this is from the parking lot on the north side. Go to the next one. Here's our site plan for the facility. You can see it has new parking lots. The base bid contract has space for 171 parking spaces. We've got new walks around the facility. We've got new air-filled paving tying in the maintenance bays to the apron. Then considerable amount of utility work for the project, including natural gas, water, and electric. Electrical engineer told me the anticipated electric load is 4,500 kVA for the facility, which is massive. You can go to the next one. So along with the KC-46 dual bay project here at Selfridge, the Board of Engineers Global District has some other work in the region. Up at Alpena, we have a CRTC Troop Training Quarter, which is estimated to be between 25 and 100 million. Down at Detroit Arsenal, we've got a Childhood Development Center in program for FY28. That's between 25 and 100 million as well. We've also got a stormwater retention basin project coming up next FY. Size figure between 5 and 10 million. And then here, we've got an FY29 project for microgrid power generation. And that's anticipated to be between 25 and 100 billion. Next one. Here's a little summary of what we went over this morning. Be sure to register in SAM so you can receive notices and respond to solicitations. Awards made on the best value trade-off basis. That's all spelled out clearly in the solicitation. Project labor agreements will be required as the project's over 25 million. It's anticipated to be an unrestricted procurement, so if you're a large business, be sure to submit a small business subcontracting plan. And there's a lot of new work in the next few years, so be sure to stay engaged. We'll look forward to working with you all. Appreciate you all having me come speak this morning. And I'll be around afterward for any questions you might have. Thank you, everybody.
All right, real quick, can we go back 3 slides to the rendering? Oh, one more. One more. All right, I want you guys to take a look at this. In my world, we see that's a beautiful building. That is very exciting to see that. Stacey, you're a happy bunch too. All right, Jim, thank you so much. I appreciate that you did make reference to that small business plan. All morning, I've held on to this little booklet here. In front of you, what you have is a list of all the individual companies that have registered to attend this event and did allow for their contact information inside this book. That small business plan will come together, and if you needed to contact any of those businesses, you've got that in front of you. So this here is your gold booklet. So a couple of other announcements before we go to break. Jim presented a lot of information on how you will go about bidding on the opportunities coming out of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He will be in the back. We are going to go to a break, but before we go to a break, we do have a special guest. He does represent our 12th congressional district, our Senate district, Kevin Hertel.
Good morning, everybody. I know I'm between you and a break, so I'll be very brief. This is incredibly exciting to see. You know, back in 2022, Governor Whitmer made a commitment to this base. Now, that was a $100 million commitment at that time. It's grown to over $200 million at this point. But since that commitment was made, we've done everything we can in the legislature, and I chair the Senate Committee on Military and Veterans Affairs. For every budget, we put in increased funding for this project. to the tune of $60.3 million to this point, and we're working right now on $152 million to finish the expansion of the runway here at Selfridge. But seeing all of these people here today makes me realize how important this is, not only to this base, but to our community overall. The investments that we're making are critical to our economy and to employing people on this base and in the region. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest. And I just want to acknowledge my thoughts and my prayers for the families of everybody who is deployed from this base today. Thank you again.
Okay, good morning. Again, I'm Josiah Myers. I'm a project director with the State of Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget, specifically part of the Design and Construction Division. We handle design and construction for state projects kind of outside what MDOT does with the transportation. So I just want to touch on a few things today. I'll be brief, provide a summary of the projects that are going to be going through State of Michigan contracting, along with the current status of each. I'll do a summary of kind of our expected solicitation method for construction of the projects, and provide a quick overview of where to find the solicitations on Sigma BSS or State of Michigan website. That's probably the most important thing I'll talk about today. Just make sure you know where to find the information. And then I'll provide my contact info for follow-up questions afterwards. So the three projects that are working through State of Michigan contracting and are currently in State of Michigan design contracts are the runway encroachment solution and two of the KC-46 projects. So the Russell Highway drain and Russell Highway Irwin drain was a State of Michigan contract, but the drawings are being handed over to Macomb County for construction execution, and they'll talk a little bit more about that project. The rest of the projects, I'll just kind of touch on lightly since Colonel Fleckie did such a good job of overviewing everything. We will be handling the runway shift, the taxiway Alpha extension, taxiway Bravo extension, and the F-15 aircraft arresting system, as well as the KC-46 Air Troop Training Complex. That was a simulator facility, and the KC-46 Squadron Operations facility. So as far as current status on the runway encroachment solution, all of it's in design or design complete. So we had kind of broken it up into different pieces of the project, not knowing at the front end what the execution methods and funding timelines would be. So the Russell Highway Irwin drain design is 100% complete. And again, that will be a Macomb County execution method. The runway is 95% complete. It's essentially 100%. We're just kind of holding off on finalizing the 100% drawings, just in case there's any last minute changes. Taxiway Alpha is at 35% design and in-government review. Taxiway Bravo is we've got an approved 35% design and 65% design will be submitted in May. And then the aircraft arresting system is 15% complete, and it's in for government review currently. The KC-46 training complex, this is the simulator facility. We have, it's an addition and renovation of building 35 for the 3 simulators. Got total square footage there. We just received the 35% design this past Friday, so the slides outdated. It's currently planned for 2028 construction, but our design timeline will allow us to execute the project in 2027, 2028, whenever the funding is available. So the KC-46 Squadron Operations Facility, again, it's a renovation in addition to the current Squad Ops Facility, Building 17. It's approximately 35,000 square feet total, and we will receive 35% design submittal on that this week. So we're making good progress on that. A design complete in 2027, so we'll be able to bid out and execute whatever funding is available. So the planned solicitation method, these will all be State of Michigan contracts, is to solicit as construction manager contracts for all 3 projects. The runway encroachment solution, the kind of update on that has actually been posted to Sigma. So that request for qualifications is live and is, I'll show on Sigma VSS how to navigate to that and find it. The scope includes the runway shift in both taxiways together as a single solicitation. And you'll just note that if you do look at Sigma, you'll see it listed as an RFI. All the documents refer to it as a request for qualifications. But just in case it is a little confusing, Sigma just you can either do an RFI or an RFP. Our solicitation process to procure a construction manager contract is a two-step process. The first step process is a request for qualification, which is a little simpler request and set of information. That will generate a list of qualified contractors that come out of that RFQ process. Then a more detailed, in-depth request for proposal with a lot more of the project scope and drawings and documents will be posted to Sigma as well. But the firms that made it out of the RFQ stage and were identified as qualified contractors to bid on it will be able to submit proposals on that RFP. Both stages will be posted to Sigma, so you'll see on the RFP stage just those who were identified as qualified contractors under the RFQ will be able to submit proposals. And then I think the most, like I said, I think the most important thing I can do is show you how to navigate on Sigma. So if we could just pull that up. So we'll start off with just the landing page. And the slides do include the link to that, and at the very end of the slide, you'll be able to see that as well. So the first thing you do is I just want to show you where to find the solicitations if you're not familiar with it, and then I'll show you kind of how to register. This is the landing page. You just navigate over on this options bar to be able to see new published solicitations. And I know I'm focused on the design and construction here, because that's my role in design and construction, but for anyone who is looking for any state of Michigan procurement opportunities, they're all posted on Sigma VSS, so this information would still apply if you're not interested in the design or construction specifically. So there's a search tool. You can search for anything, whether it's a type of supply or the location, in this case Selfridge. Scroll down, you'll see the opportunity posted. This is the RFI. What I mentioned is just the RFQ for the runway encroachment solution. And I'll note I'm not logged in, I don't have an account, so this is open and public to anyone, even without an account. You can view the documents, view all solicitations without being registered. So here you can see the 4 documents that are posted as part of the solicitation. We have an RFQ advertisement form, we've got the primary RFQ document, and then a couple of supporting documents that drawings that share the scope and the phasing information. So that is how you find solicitations on Sigma. So I want to go back to the landing page again and then just touch briefly on how to register if you don't have an account. All procurement opportunities run through Sigma VSS, and all proposals have to be submitted on Sigma VSS. So right up on front in the upper right is a sign up button, as well as the help desk information. But one thing that I think is more useful to those who are first time registering is to slide over to important links. There's a lot of really good information here. You just click on Sigma again. And you can get back to the home page with that Sigma VSS button. The thing I'm pointing out is down here under businesses, at the very bottom, there's a whole set of reference guides that help those who are registering for the first time, quick reference guides to sign up for a new account, VSS registration guide, and how to activate your account. Those are very thorough guides and very helpful to those who are doing this for the first time. Slide deck. Okay, so that was really all the information I wanted to share up here today. I'm going to pull my contact info up. I'd be happy to, if you email me or give me a call, I can answer any questions you have about Sigma, about current status of any of the project solicitations. And the I will be available in the back corner here. There's a couple graphics of the projects we have going on, but happy to answer any questions you have afterwards. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Josiah. And just as a recap, what he was telling all of you is there's an RFP out there for bid. And so if you're not already registered on the system, there is some assistance that you can get to get registered. But when we talk about timeliness and the speed and pace of these projects, they're happening now. So thank you, Josiah. All right, so next up I'm going to bring up Scott Wanagat. He is the Macomb County Highway Engineer, and he'll talk specifically about the project that's happening off the base with William P. Roscoe. Scott.
Okay, sorry, just wanted to get my notes up here that I needed. So the three things I'm going to talk about today, my name is Scott Wanagat, I'm the County Highway Engineer for the Macomb County Department of Roads. So the three things I'll talk about, I'll touch on what we are as a roads department, the things that we're responsible for those that may not be aware or familiar with what we do, our typical bidding process and the procurement method that we utilize for all of our county projects. And then go into maybe some specifics regarding the non-airfield, the Roscoe Highway relocation project specific. So civil engineering is what I refer to as the profession that no one knows that anything exists until something goes wrong. Think of, like when a bridge closure is in place, you can't get through where you need to go to. Signals aren't working, it's causing tons of backups and everything, or even a sinkhole develops. So in a county the size of Macomb, it takes a lot to keep these things running smoothly. And this is just a snapshot of some of the many assets that we have responsibility for with regard to our road assets. So what exactly does it take to get all this, to make all this work? Potholes and pothole patching, snow removal, that comes to mind when people think of Department of Roads. But really, we have a lot more that goes beyond just that. So construction out of our primary and local roads is another big aspect. We always say that we have two seasons in Michigan. There's winter and then there's construction, and that's it. Outside of that, we also have traffic operations. Our operations center has access to all the traffic cameras that we have throughout the county. This gives us insight into what's going on out there, if there's ever an emergency, an accident, that we can respond to those different events. If there's a community event going on, to make updates to signals to allow for traffic to move through a lot more smoothly. Those are some of the things that are most visible, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of other things that are kind of going on. Programming and design, which is one of the aspects that can take 2 years or more in some cases. A lot of times that happens before we even get to a road closure. So if we have something like a bridge that goes out, it's a lot more painful in that sense because we're now having to go through that sometimes 2-year time frame before we can even get a shovel in the ground because of just how long it takes to get through that. Constant routine maintenance is what's going on. You know, you'll see someone out there doing some routine maintenance on a road or a bridge, and you think, they were just out here. Why are they out here again? Well, we have to do routine maintenance to keep it from getting to the point where we have to do a complete reconstruct of, say, that roadway. And the other big aspect is communication with the public. So this is getting the message across is probably the biggest thing that helps clear up headaches. Talking with the community leaders, engaging with them, providing project updates, road closures, engaging with the social media network. Those are all great avenues to make that happen. So when it comes to road jurisdiction, the general public doesn't care. They don't want to know that it's a state road or a local road or a county road. They just want it fixed, and rightfully so. So many people feel that if it's not happening right out in front of their driveway or in front of their street, that you guys aren't doing anything. You know, I see you guys get all this money, but I don't ever see anything getting done. My street is still a mess. Those are some of the things that we deal with day in and day out. And so, you know, those are some of the things that as public servants and public agencies, we have to constantly work on and address. Macomb County does have some responsibility. We have a contract with MDOT where we do plowing of state roads like an M3 Gratiot or an M59 Hall Road. But the general responsibility of that road falls to the state of Michigan. So to maintain our assets, we have to focus on what we call transportation asset management. We can't just follow a worst first mentality of fixing things. That's too costly. We can't just react to when we come through a freeze-thaw season and we've got so many roads that are in horrible shape, focusing on reconstructing all of those. You know, we've got to take a mix of fixes approach to maintain those assets in good and fair condition for as long as possible. So this results in fewer, more expensive measures later. So our asset management plan provides an objective approach to preserving our existing system while still allowing us to address those severe condition needs as well as capacity related issues like road widenings as well. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest obstacles that we face is communicating the message, getting it across to community leaders, the public, everybody that is a possible stakeholder in this. So we know what it takes to get and what's involved in getting these things done, but the general public does not. So it kind of goes back to that comment about, like, you know, they don't care how, they just want it done. So we have to keep that in mind when we approach these things. So one of the big things that we do is we meet regularly with our community leaders to educate them on the many aspects of the road programs that we offer. And we do that through our community outreach and road education, or CORE program. So through this program, we're able to talk about our own specific county programs that we offer, which are basically avenues in which to address improving road conditions, maintaining those roads and everything. Community needs, priorities, of infrastructure, discussing what their highest priorities are, and discussing funding. Funding is probably one of the biggest things that we need to deliver that message on. So once we get through all that, how do we actually make a project a reality? So once that funding is secured, we go through a design and permitting process, and that's that part that takes the 2 years that I kind of mentioned earlier. We go through utility coordinations to get all of that aligned and in place. And then that leads to assembling a bid package, putting together drawings, which are the physical features of the project, all the specifications or how it is to be built. Then we go through and we advertise that project. We'll put it out on the Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, or MITN. We post it on our website as well, where contractors can gain access to that. And we usually go anywhere from like a 2-week for a lesser project to a 4-week advertisement for some that are larger and more involved. We do bid openings electronically. Bid Express is the service that we use, and the lowest qualified bidder gets the job. Draft contracts will then go to the communities and the agency boards for their approval. And once we have those final signatures, which is after about generally 4 weeks, then we are ready to go with an awarded contract. So with that contract in hand, we can then start with the project. That usually begins with a pre-construction meeting where we talk about schedule, detours, phasing, any special conditions that we need to make the contractor aware of. We will notify all the stakeholders involved, whether that's a large business entity, a school, another major agency that has maybe an adjacent project going on. We'll put traffic measures into place to make the site safe and secure. And then the contractor will then mobilize their equipment to begin their work operations. And then the work will follow typically logical progression. We'll go through removals, anything that needs to get removed, working on underground utilities, foundations, subbases, going through and backfilling, then adding, putting the pavement or superstructure of a bridge, let's say, and then dealing with any other superficial items such as shoulders, curb and gutter, guardrail, pavement markings, and restoration. Once all of that is done and the road is complete, traffic devices are removed, and then the project is open to traffic. And then we usually generate a final punch list of items that we kind of go through and clean up after that traffic has been restored. So none of this can happen unless we have a dedicated team. That includes members from each of these groups. Our survey group is kind of where everything starts. That involves all of the spatial controls of the project, you know, taking the topographic survey, establishing alignments, elevations, profiles. Our inspection team, they are the eyes and the ears in the field and the boots on the ground. So we rely on them to tell us exactly what's going on, convey site changes and issues that we come across. The best design project means nothing unless you have a skilled inspector and construction staff to execute it. Our lab ensures that the quality of the materials that are used, it helps us with our quality control insurance plans to make sure everything is being done according to those. They are also responsible for maintaining all the state-of-the-art equipment that we use for in-lab and on-site testing as well. Office technicians, they help navigate the sea of standardized forms. They make the files all organized, they make the file smile, as we say. They serve as the bridge between our contractor submissions and the agency requirements to make sure that we have everything in hand for the event of an inevitable audit that generally occurs. And our engineers. So not everything goes according to how the plans are initially designed. So you need competent engineers to oversee these construction operations as they're being done. I once had a project manager tell me that plans are nothing more than a guideline, and man was he right. You know, that experienced engineer is going to be able to roll with the tide and approve all the different aspects of the construction and be responsible for those project-related changes and decisions that need to be made, and providing those engineered solutions that we need as we go along. So again, getting into the project specific, the William P. Russell Highway relocation. It's our feature project that we're talking about here as far as Department of Roads and Public Works is concerned. It's a $47 million project, and a project of this magnitude requires years of planning and will also be a multi-year construction effort. So the preliminary work began, is expected to begin, late this summer with the primary construction happening in 2027. So this is a joint effort between, like I said, ourselves and our Public Works Agency for the urban drain relocation. And it also features a couple of things like a new roundabout at the Town Center Boulevard intersection to address the sharp skew that was generated by relocating the highway to the north. Some of the specific aspects of what this project will entail include preloading in stage 1 to alleviate geotechnical concerns for future settlement. Stage 2 will be including constructing a drain crossing and excavating for a new drain along with a roundabout. Stage 3 is more drain excavation. There's 3 separate culvert crossings that we're going to have here, and the alignment of the road. And stage 4 will be once the new road is connected to demolish the old one and open the new road to traffic. So just going a little bit more into the staging and phasing. In this phase, which will be probably starting later this year once we get this project bid out, traffic is going to continue as usual No detours or interruption during this phase, as all this work is considered offline at this point. So we are going to gap out or utilize the existing culvert for the Tucker Jones drain while the preloading is occurring. Stage 2 will see us closing Town Center Boulevard intersection and begin to construct the roundabout for that tie-in there. We'll also be constructing, you'll see that it goes under the roundabout where the drain starts to cross and go to the north as it runs on the north side of the road. That's the first culvert crossing that we'll have that goes through there. So all that work will continue on the new alignment of the road as that's being done. Stage 3 is continued work. Now, we'll be able to restore traffic at Town Center Boulevard once that roundabout is done. And then we'll be constructing that third drain crossing on the other side to help bring it back into line. On the northerly section, there is a culvert that's installed up there, and that's to essentially prevent waterfowl interference from the approaching and departing flights that would be leaving. And then in stage 4, the new road and drain is complete and traffic is restored, and that's where we would remove the old Rosso Highway, fill in the old Irwin drain, and prepare the remaining site for the remainder of the runway expansion. So just a couple of final notes to wrap up, regarding our approaching 2026 construction season. Macomb County Department of Roads is putting our asset management plan to work with this mix of fixes that we talked about. So between standalone MDOT projects and our annual pavement preservation program and our subdivision programs, which include reconstructions, rehabilitations, preventive maintenance work, we're on track for more than 100 different project locations this year, improving over 270 lane miles to the tune of $85 million. So with the volume of funds that we deal with on an annual basis, adding a project like this, I wouldn't say it's just old hat, because every project is unique and has its different challenges and aspects, but we're more than capable and ready to handle that. And so as I mentioned, just to kind of highlight, one of our flagship programs is our pavement preservation program. There's 2 distinct ones that deal with asphalt and concrete. It's 100% county funded. And we kind of make these selections and utilize the things that we learned from these core meetings to sort of plug gaps between projects that get state and federal funds versus projects that may get some appropriated dollars or grants, and we sort of fill in the gaps to address what these community needs are with this particular program. So by combining this with other programs like our subdivision preservation, it gives us more economies of scale that we're being able to address. And some of the projects noted up here, some of the notable ones are sort of short-term solutions to allow us to aim for the longer-term funding opportunities that we need to get. And then as we wrap up our National Work Zone Awareness Week from last week, the message remains the same for the whole year: safe actions, save lives. Everyone wants to go home at the end of the day, so we encourage those safe actions by avoiding distractions, putting down your cell phone, being aware, slowing down as you go through these work zones. And this one will be no different. So to aid in that awareness, education to the public, again, as we said, was essential. So through our Macomb Work Zone, which is our platform that we utilize to reach the general public and our stakeholders and everyone else. Through social media, our website, there's you can sign up to get emails, text messages for any and all up-to-date information about a new project that's starting, a new lane closure that's happening, a road closure, any of those things. It all comes through that. And then lastly, all that you need can be found at the bottom of our webpage in one convenient spot. And as a final note, as public servants, our primary goal is obviously the safety of the motoring public, our residents, and our workforce. We want to be responsible stewards of the public funds that we receive and providing a safe and reliable infrastructure for all residents and visitors in Macomb County. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Scott. And just as a recap, we're looking at August is when some of those earth movers are going to get out there for some of that preliminary work. That's 4 months from now. So lots going on. All right, Jeff, I'm going to bring you up, but of course, is there any baby news? No baby news just yet, so you get to present to us. Jeff is our Civil and Environmental Resource Manager for Macomb County Public Works, and we'll be talking about the drain project. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about, as the Macomb County Public Works Office, we maintain drainage throughout the county. We have thousands of miles of drains that we maintain, whether they're open or enclosed, whether they're stormwater drains, or if they're combined drains, or if they're sanitary sewer drains. But today I'm going to talk about just one of our drains, or two, I guess I should say, that come across the airfield. One is the Irwin extension drain. The Irwin drain, interestingly enough, is to the south of here. Part of my job as a Civil and Environmental Resources Manager is figure out, okay, is that our drain? When did it become our drain? What do we have to do with that drain? And on the airfield, we have several drains that existed from much earlier in time. The Gold drain, the actual Irwin drain. Those were resources that there was not a great meeting of the minds, I would say, between the airfield and our office in the 1950s. Some very fiery correspondence back and forth about who had jurisdiction over what. And I think that might have ultimately led to the creation of this drain that comes around this corner here and goes straight. And that was the Irwin extension. And it was kind of like, take your drain and take it off of our facility. Fast forward into the 2010s, and suddenly the airfield is having issues with being able to maintain some of their stormwater assets due to environmental considerations. And suddenly we became best friends again because our drains had exemptions that allowed work to be done in order to correct some drainage issues that were going on the airfield. This drain that we're talking about, the Irwin extension, doesn't take any of the drainage from the airfield itself, so it is just passing through. And it was relocated. It used to run kind of like right here until this runway needed to be expanded, and that was in the 60s, I believe, was that project. It was kind of like, oh, we have jets. Now jets need longer runways. And so then we relocated the drain to avoid the airfield, and lo and behold, here we're doing that again. This is a somewhat misaligned version of where the drain is going to be relocated to, is along with the Russell Highway. I say somewhat misaligned because if you really look at where it says culvert 1, 2, and 3, they're pointing at the culverts, but you can see where the culverts are, I think. How many people here like to do environmental projects? 1, 2, 3. How many people like to do earthwork projects that involve a lot of rock? Only a few hands, okay, because that's what this project is. We considered the environment of the Irwin for this project, and we considered that environment to be airfield. And so you will see the drain, on this it's blacked out, but in a lot of cases you'll see it just as like a whole bunch of riprap. If you like laying riprap, this is a job for you because there's going to be quite a bit of it on this project. That's not because of erosive velocities or anything like that. It's to reduce bash hazards. So that as Scott had mentioned, we have a concern about waterfowl. Any duck hunters in the room? Man, nobody wants to raise their hand. I don't want to call on you for that. But if you are, you know what puddle ducks do. They just jump straight up. And that is a huge risk for aircraft. So we don't want those. We don't want nesting birds on the side of our drains. We don't need that. Anything that can interfere with aircraft operations. So we have this relocation project, and any sort of quality, as you drove in, you probably at least saw the drain. If you saw like a whole bunch of riprap on the side of the runway there, that's the drain. Okay. Anyway, we had placed that recently, but there's still some environmental factors associated with the drain. Those are being mitigated off-site. So there will be an opportunity for anybody who likes stream restoration work. We will have some of that. But the relocation work is about a lot of rock. It's also about culverts. So one of the culverts that is involving Russell Highway, or almost Russell Highway, Jefferson, is the entrance culvert to the base. So where we all drove through this morning, or staged our cars to have a nice conversation with the Sentry, that's exactly what we're talking about. Those culverts are really old, and they are corrugated metal pipe. And if anybody knows the pH of the soil in Lake St. Clair, you know that we have serious concerns about whether that corrugated metal pipe is intact still. So we do not need the basin's entrance to collapse and fail. So one of the projects that we're looking at doing is restoring or replacing those dual 6-foot concrete or CMP pipes with one 22 by 7-foot box, concrete box culvert. This is a cross-section kind of the drain itself. You can see all that riprap on the banks of it. We are leaving the center in order to reduce how much environmental mitigation work needs to be done. We are leaving the center open for macroinvertebrates. That's a big word, meaning the little bugs that fish like to eat. But then around the end section, or around the culverts, we will be rocking it all. And this is not, why is this not going? What have they done? Over here. Okay. So the culverts are really big, and there's a lot of length involved. So this is also quite a bit of the cost of the project. So 20-foot spans, 22-foot spans, 7-foot rides on all of those. We also are putting rock inside those culverts to just create some sort of substrate to meet some Eagle requirements. These are, each one of the culverts, as Scott had mentioned, we have two that will cross Russell Highway, because we are putting the drain on the north side of Russell Highway, and then across the airfield itself, we have two different alternates depending on where costs come in as far as constructing the length of that culvert to protect, reduce the dash hazards across the roadway. Yeah, so I think Scott kind of went over this, and truth be told, I had a very competent engineer put this together, but I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail about how we're planning to stage the project and what order we're going to be constructing things. I think the important message here is that we've got, almost a mile of drain relocation work. Along that, it is almost a mile worth of riprap work to be done. Those culverts add up to over 1,000 feet of very large diameter culverts. So that's a big part of our project. There is one other drain that comes in, the Tucker Jones, which you can see sort of south of 12 there. You see how it comes down into the existing drain. So there is some questions about how we'll stage that, as far as when we'll bring it in, when will the drain be ready for action. We'll likely just put that in a temporary culvert to allow it to flow down to the existing Irwin while construction operations are going underway. There is some areas with some old foundry sand that needs to be removed. And so there is also, if you like to drive trucks, there's going to be some trucking of material outside. Along with, replacing these culverts and moving things, there's utility relocations that have to happen. So that will all be found in our plans. Which is what that says in bulletized form. And that's it for me.
You mentioned how this is going to be bid separate with the road. Can you clarify that for everybody?
So Scott went into the bid process. Our drain, since, I guess I could have said, does it look like the drain is just right next to the road? Because it is, so it's almost like a roadside ditch, but it is a county drain. When those types of things happen, we usually team up. In this case, roads is taking the lead, so this will be part of the roads project in order to do our work.
With the Macomb Regional Apex Accelerator. Any of you who know my background, I actually was a PTAC back in the days. So I know her message is going to be really important on how do you go about becoming a government contractor and bidding out some of this work. Maureen.
Good morning. Before I get started explaining what Apex Accelerator is, how many people in the room already work with an Apex Accelerator? Raise your, oh God, I can just leave now. Just kidding. Okay, let's get the face off of here. And let's talk about Apex Accelerators and what exactly we do and why you might be interested in talking to us. So we are a program of record under the Department of Defense or Department of War, however you want to say that, under the Office of Small Business Programs. And we are under also a cooperative agreement with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. So you're saying, Maureen, what does that mean to me? It means zero cost for our services. So we were funded through a cooperative agreement, and Macomb Regional Apex Accelerator is housed at Macomb Community College. Our program goals are to cultivate and sustain the defense industrial base and the government industrial base. We are critical grade, so we help you understand everything in government, to federal government contracting, local contracting, as well as state government contracting. We increase awareness of the compliance with foreign ownership, control, or influence. And we improve cybersecurity of the DIB and GIB, strengthening the supply chain. Who was at my workshop last Monday? Just a couple of you. Well, guess what? We have another one coming up June 23rd. So mark that on your calendar. If you need to be cyber secure for federal contracting, we can show you how to do that for zero to very low cost. We also facilitate innovation within the DIB and GIB and capture market data for key industries. So this is just some economic impact on our statewide program. Just kind of let you know how many businesses we support across the state of Michigan, how many contracts, the jobs that are created, and our return on investment. And then this is our national impact. So there are 90 plus Apex Accelerators across the country. Caveat, Apex Accelerators started in Michigan. 1987, I think, in Onaway of all places, and spread across the state, and then it was picked up by the Defense Logistics Agency, spread across the country, and then we moved up to DOD. So this just kind of gives you an idea overall how our program goes. So our core services, no cost guidance. So it's not going to cost you anything to talk to us. I feel like my job isn't done until you don't need me anymore. So we're always available, but you know, initially in the beginning, you may need more hands-on experience or help. We do registrations, so we can help you get registered in SAM.gov, System for Award Management. We can help you with Sigma BSS. It's not always the easiest thing to try on your own. We can make sure that you get registered correctly the first time. A little easier to move forward. We also show you how to use those systems, how to find the opportunities, how to do some market research, how to find out who's buying what you're selling and how much. We also help you with networking opportunities. So who do you need to know? Who do you need to meet in order to get this thing going? Maybe you need a subcontractor or a partner to joint venture with. We can help you with those with some of our matchmaking events. So we also offer training. Training is probably the largest part of our job. We like to educate you so that you don't have to continuously rely on us, but we're always available if you do need our help. So it's kind of like teaching to fish so they can eat forever. We have core trainings. You can see we have that CMMC workshop circled there. It is a new requirement, so we're trying to get the word out. But we have lots of core trainings. And then we also have special trainings, Takeaway Tuesdays, subject matter experts we bring in on topics that may be of interest to you as a government contractor. This is a map of our Michigan Apex accelerators. Macomb Regional Apex Accelerator only works for businesses or works with businesses located in Macomb County. So you're thinking maybe if you're in Oakland County, well, why can't I work with Maureen? Well, because of our cooperative agreement, we only work with those businesses, but there's 8 centers and there's 3 sub-centers within Michigan. We can quickly and easily help you find the Apex Accelerator that can serve you. And then nationwide, there's the map. We have 90 plus Apex accelerators, including Hawaii and Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands. So if you need to locate an Apex accelerator, we have the QR codes here. On the left, if you're in Michigan. On the right, if you're outside of Michigan. And you can always grab those QR codes from Jack at the back of the room. And then here we have our training guide. We do put our training schedule together in advance so that you can kind of prepare ahead of time. We're working on our 2027 here shortly. So if you want to see what kind of events are coming up, we also have hard copies at the back. And that's it for me.
All right, so if you are interested or get questions for the Apex accelerators, Maureen and her team will be in the back, just kitty corner over there. All right, and then for our final speaker, if I can have Brigadier General, I'm going to call you Kramer, but I call you Cosmo. I call him Cosmo, the Assistant Adjutant General for the Michigan National Guard.
Thank you, Vicki. Hey, Vicki, if you could stay up here with me real quick. Vicki, Lori, and Kelly. You know who you're at. Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And then John Stoltz, are you still here? Come on up. Come on over here. Next slide, you want to look at that ugly monkey. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Well, my parents always taught me, right? You thank the people that put in the work, and you thank them early so that you don't forget at the end of your presentation. So I wanted to thank this team here, the hard work of putting this event together. These are your people right here. Our appreciation, Chief Wolford put together a coin for the Mission Next. So you're going to be the first public recipients of this coin. So thank you. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you, team. Now I'll let you go back and not be publicly humiliated. Thank you. Job well done by that team, and I think, Vicki, we're on schedule, right? Yeah, I'm glad, because when we did the planning last week, I said, hey, take my 15 minutes, just give me 5 minutes, I'll say hello and goodbye and get out of here. And then as the day went on, I'm like, oh, I want to do some more context there. Oh, I want to correct something there, and so thank you. I got a little extra time. I think as we heard from our senior leaders earlier, there was a lot about how we got here. I heard Lieutenant Colonel Klinke say, "Hey, I'm not that important. I'm this far down the food chain," and I just couldn't disagree more. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I think it's really important that we get some context on how we got here. Because now you all, those of you selected, are going to be part of the team. And it's important that you understand the weight on your shoulders as you take this challenge. We've been, at Selfridge here, we've been looking at divesting missions, not us. The Air Force has been looking at divesting the A-10 mission and pushing us into a one aircraft wing. Even though we're the 10th largest state by population, we have 0 active duty bases in the state, in the Air Force side. In the Army, we have a lot of armories in the Army National Guard, and if you want to, call TACOM, an Army installation, it is, but it doesn't have the active duty footprint that you do with a normal training facility. So we have, in my mind, we've been discounted for what we bring to the fight. And that's the national security, national defense strategy fight. And they being the Air Force has been looking to divest us to one wing and saying, one flying wing, and saying, well, it's only fair that every state has one flying wing. You can't have two aircraft at one wing, let alone two flying wings in the state. And we've said, no, that's not truth. Truth is, we're a major player, and we should, based on our deployment records and our history of excellence in flying, we deserve to have two flying ones. So I'm proud of the people at Selfridge and the Michigan Air National Guard, and I get frustrated when we get discounted. So if you feel that passion, it's there. So moving on to the a couple decades of losing, we call it, where we haven't been able to recapitalize the A10 as it goes through the journey. Thank you to then Representative Miller, who's not here, for saving that fight for a little longer and putting us in the position that we are today. So it was a monumental day, then April 29th, an unlikely day, where two political parties, leaders in political parties, came together for the benefit of Michiganders to score this win. But that win has not been realized yet. And it's been I'm normally a very positive person. Ask my wife. And I've been really, was telling my boss, General Rogers, just this morning, like, I feel like in this job I've gotten a little more pessimistic. But that's my job, is to look at what are those areas of concern and making sure that we deliver on what we have said over and over again, generational, unprecedented. It's all on paper right now. Until we have shovels in the ground and concrete being poured and aircraft on the ramp, it's all still aspirational to me. So that's where this team comes. It's so important that this team understands the gravity of the situation and why a lot of the things you saw might not be accurate. The dates, I saw a couple dates on program scheduling for certain projects to start. Not if we have it our way. We're working diligently to bring projects into that 35% design threshold so we can ask our political leaders to pull it forward into the budgets up a year. And that's important to us, because the longer you delay and you get further from the decision, you never know what's going to happen. Right now, that's my paranoid thinking, so apologies there. But when we hire these contractors, they're part of the team. And I'll use an example. We're the design for the maintenance complex for the F-15, right? 8-bay hangar. Right now, if you look at the Future Years Defense Plan that was just published by the Air Force last week for those projects, it's a 3-phase project and start 28 or 29. The Air Force would like it to be all in 29. Well, 29, that's a new administration. Why would we delay, right? So one of the critical milestones is 35% design so that the congressional committees can actually look at, hey, what's on the military construction priority list for the year and how could we potentially pull things forward. And our design contractor, one of the design contractors for that 8-bay hangar, had some folks that were from Selfridge. I'm not going to get into names and all those things. It's not important. What's important is I was able to ask them as a friend, like, hey, when do you think's possible? Can we get that design accelerated by, we're talking about a matter of weeks to meet the threshold the congressional subcommittees start meeting. And lo and behold, we were able to get through that 35% design a couple of weeks ago in time to meet those subcommittee meetings. Now, I can't stress that's being part of the team. And if you're a part of the team, that's the amount of, I guess, the influence you have on these processes. So I want to thank you in advance, and thank you that are already, participating on the team, because it's huge. It's huge. one of the biggest things I hear from the Guard Bureau on why they don't want us to fund these projects any earlier. I'd love to get a picture today and send this to NGBA 4. Said, you don't have, we're concerned you don't have the contractors available to do this gravity of work in Southeast Michigan. Yeah, I heard some laughing. That's exactly what I said. I said, have you been to Southeast Michigan? I mean, come on, we're one of the largest metropolitan populations in the country. The things going on in Detroit today are incredible. So, I give you that is there's always a reason why you can't at those highest, in the bureaucratic levels of the Air Force and federal government. My job is to try to, the boss is working with this thing, get to know the details, find the obstacles, and find ways around them, right? So you're gonna see or hear about us trying to accelerate things at a level that might not even seem possible, but it's my job. Because until we have concrete in the ground, the jets on the ramp, I'm not going to be able to sleep very good at night. So I told my spouse, that's, 5 to 10 years, I might be a walking zombie, but we'll get through this together, right? So I wanted to, Jen, thank you all for your participation here. Ask questions. There isn't a question that's not important enough to ask. We're going to give some time in the back to ask all those questions and make sure if you have them, don't leave today thinking you'll be at the next series to ask them. You will be, but get a head start on it, because my hope is that we beat all these timelines. That's the optimism in me, right? I said I was a pessimist. That's the optimism, is we're going to beat those timelines. So without any further ado, I could lecture all day long. I'm not going to. I'm going to pass it over to Vicki, and thank you all for your attendance and wanting to be part of this team. We really appreciate it.
General Kramer, we're going to focus on the optimism. So before we conclude, we want to thank all of the individuals that really pulled this together. As General Rogers mentioned, 4 months ago there was a gentle nudge saying, let's pull together an industry day. We wanted to host that back in January. That was optimism. But today is much more beautiful, so glad that it happened when it did. But if I can have the individuals that were on the planning call that are part of that A&D subcommittee, can you guys please stand up? You guys truly need to be recognized. Thank you. So on the very first call, we had a pact, and we said, we know that this is going to be more than just one event, and are you guys in it for the long run? And they said yes. So far we haven't lost anyone. So thank you very much for that. All right, and then if we want to go to the next slide, we just want you to save the date. We will be sending out the actual date of that series number 2. Once again, that will be focused on the Department of Road project, the William P. Rosso, as well as the drain project. So if that is an area of interest and you want to attend that, you just stay tuned. We'll get that out to you. Once again, we're looking at summer coming up here in 2026. And that is the final slide, correct? Questions. All right, so we do have some time here. I think we do need to vacate at 12:30, but you have the opportunity. Please feel free to meet with any of the vendors or the booths in the back if you have specific questions. We'll be around. Thank you very much. Have a great day.